I want to say, well, for those of us on Eastern time, I want to say good afternoon. The rest of you on Central and Mountain, and I don't think we have any Pacific groups here today, so I want to say good morning to you folks. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're pleased to have you guys here for our continuance of our Heart of the Hall of Famer education series, character education series, and we're glad you guys could all tune in for that. Before we get started into the program, there are a few folks that I want to thank that made sure this is possible. First of all, the folks at Robbinsdale School District in New Hope, Minnesota, Cooper High School. I want to Jane Prestaback. I want to say thank you. They're hosting Randall, even though she gave me a little small heart attack here just a moment ago. But I want to say thank you guys for hosting Randall, and thanks for all your help with making this connection today. We'd also like to thank our friends Lance Ford at Tamberg, now part of Cisco. Some of you might know that. But they're recording this for us through their Tamberg content server. So if the schools want to get a copy of this afterwards, they can do so. And then lastly, some of you might have talked to the fine folks at eTech Ohio and Columbus, Ohio. They're the ones that make all these connections happen and connect all the different schools that are our state bridge. So I want to thank Aaron and Derek and Michelle and the folks that I'm sure a lot of you schools have already spoken with them. They're a wonderful asset to us and to the schools across the state of Ohio. So thank you folks at eTech for doing that. And I'd like to recognize the schools that are participating here today. And we want to ask all the schools to have their mics muted for the time being if you could. But just to let you guys know where all the schools are coming from, and you can feel free to, when I say your school name, to show a little school pride and yell out, hooray, or whatever you want to yell out in the background. But let's want to welcome Pocono Mountain East High School in Swiftwater, Pennsylvania.
Hooray!
Hooray! Thank you, Pocono. Salt River High School in Scottsdale, Arizona, a place that I think Randall's pretty familiar with. Okay, well, they haven't gotten in. They must be enjoying the sun a little bit out there. Mountain Gap Middle School in Huntsville, Alabama. Nothing?
That's middle school.
Okay. We'll go to Dalhart ISD, Dalhart, Texas. And I think I see them on the screen right now. Lake Arthur High School in Lake Arthur, Louisiana. And then Osceola High School in Osceola, Wisconsin. I want to thank all of you guys connected here today. We ask all the groups if you can go ahead and mute your mics for the time being. We'll have opening remarks from Randall, and then we're going to go to Q&A after that. So we'll just ask you all to leave your mics muted for the time being. The premise of this program here today is really to convey what it took to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. We all know the God-given ability that these players have, making it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, their talents. But really at the core of who they are is their character, and those 6 pillars of character that you guys hopefully have studied before: the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, caringness, and citizenship. Because that's at the core that's made them successful. And most of our Hall of Famers, it can be said, if their God-given ability wasn't in football, they would have gone on to some other endeavor in life and been the very best at what that is. And in this case, we do have someone who's been very distinguished on the field, being inducted in the Hall of Fame, but someone who's been distinguished off the field as well because he's had a lot of achievements. And I'd like to introduce that person to you, and let me read a little information from his bio. Randall Mcdaniel was from the class of 2009. He was selected in the first round. He was the 19th overall pick back in 1988, and during that 1988 season, he earned all rookie honors. He started 202 consecutive games, so you talk about consistency there and dedication. Started 13 playoff games for the Vikings. Now get this, he blocked for 6 1,000-yard rushers and 5 3,000-yard passes during career. He anchored offensive line of the explosive Vikings. At that time, the team had scored a then NFL record 550 points. That was in 1998. Guys like Chris Carter were on that team, someone you guys still might know because he's still around in the National Football League. It was his rookie season, a guy by the name of Randy Moss. So that took place in 98. He was named All-Pro 9 consecutive times, selected to play in a record 12 consecutive AFC, NFC Pro Bowls. So that's a little bit about, obviously, his on-the-field background, but he's got quite a distinguished background off the field as well. And I think what you'll find is, as you learn a little bit about his background, football was, his talent, but I think reading from this, I think youth are his passion because everything he does is involved with youth. He holds a bachelor's degree in physical education from Arizona State University. He received a provisional teaching certificate and worked as a substitute elementary school teacher in the Robbinsdale School District from 2002 to 2006. He works as a full-time grade 3 and 4 basic skills instructor, tutor in the Robbinsdale area school district, which is now hosting him today. He accepted, just a couple years ago, accepted a full-time position as a grade 2 special education basic skills instructor in Westonka Public Schools in Minnesota as well. Not only from his full-time profession, but a lot of his passions on the side, his organizations and charities that he's involved with. All of them involve schools, or involve children, whether it's children with cancer, whether it's homeless children, whatever it might be. He's involved with the foundation Hands On for Homeless Children. Another one, Adventure Us Learning Alternatives. Mr. McDaniel's Classroom is another one, and then Team McDaniel. So before I turn things over to him, I want you guys to see a little bit of footage of him on the field, and hopefully you guys are seeing this video. And
in 1988, the Minnesota Vikings used the 19th selection in the draft to select Arizona State guard Randall Mcdaniel. As a rookie, McDaniel started 15 games and was named to the NFL All-Rookie Team and Second Team All-NFC. In McDaniel's second season, the guard embarked on a pair of remarkable streaks. He earned his first of 12 consecutive Pro Bowl berths and started every game of the season, a streak that would last for 202 games until he retired following the 2001 season. McDaniel blocked for 6 different 1,000-yard rushers and 5 different 3,000-yard passers during his 14-year career with the Vikings and Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
so if you can all unmute your mics for a second and join me in welcoming class of 2009 enshrinee Hall of Famer Randall Mcdaniel. Mr. McDaniel, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to say hello to everyone out there. Thanks for taking your afternoon, morning to listen to me talk a little bit and answer your questions about character. I'll give you a little bit of what I think character means to me. I mean, it's extremely important. I believe that character defines who you are and what you value. It defines the way you live your life to determine the mark that you make on this world. In my opinion, a person with good character makes the right decisions, even in tough situations. They take opportunities that have been given to them and they use them in a positive way. And they leave this world a better place for having been there. For me, good character begins with honesty and integrity. I think it requires having a compassion for others and desire to treat everyone equally. I think good character requires you to be responsible and accountable for your actions. I also think it requires you to consistently challenge yourself to be a better person and stay open-minded and continually learn and grow. Unfortunately, I think many of those qualities have been forgotten in our world today. I feel good character needs to be measured by your actions and not just your words. Like I said, we give a lot of lip service about value and good character, but our actions don't always match our words. For example, let's say you saw someone being bullied at school. If I ask you what you do in that situation, most of you would say you try to stop it. Well, you all know that's the right thing to do, but in truth, that doesn't usually happen. Bullying occurs every day in schools across the country, and every day the same thing happens. Some students walk by and pretend they didn't see it. Others stop and watch. Some students may join in, and others just are happy it's not them. It's extremely difficult to stand up and do the right thing when you're worried about what others might be thinking. Doing the right thing requires courage, and it requires willingness to be true to yourself, and even tough sometimes. But in my opinion, that's the foundation of good character. I want to live in a world that cares about things like honesty, integrity, fairness, equality, and compassion. And I believe most people want the same things. I think we all need to stand up and say character matters. Today's a great start. I'm really glad to be here. I know you don't want to hear me keep going on, so let's just get to those questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Randall, and I think as you heard him echo a lot of those 6 pillars in his opening statement there, the trustworthiness, respect, and responsibility. And I think he talked about right there his actions, speak louder than words. And I think his actions and the foundations and organizations he's with, I think speaks volumes about caring and caring for our youth of today. So what we're going to do is we're going to open things up to questions, and we're going to go in the order of this. We'll go 2 questions the first round from each school, and it's going to go Pocono, Salt River, Mountain Gap, Dalhart, Lake Arthur, then Osceola, then we'll start back at the top again. We'll go in the order of registration. Each school will have 2 opportunities to ask a question at that round, and the second round will go from 1 from each school. Now, Pocono, while you're thinking of your questions, let me just give you some food for thought here. Think about this. You are connecting to one of the greatest football players that has ever played in the National Football League. There have been over 20,000 players that have suited up in the National Football League since it started in 1920. There are only 260 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and out of those, only about 225, I think it is, that are actual players. So you are talking about one of the very best, not only on the field, but off the field as well, as someone who upholds, the highest values, and like I said, outlines all these pillars that you have. So I encourage you guys today to ask very thought-provoking questions of, what kind of adversity he faced in his life, what obstacles, what barriers, what advice do you give young people today? I encourage you guys to ask those questions of him today, because Randall is a very candid and open person, and we'll be happy to share with what's helped him achieve success in his life. So with that being said, let's go to Pocono Mountain East in Pennsylvania. Go ahead with your first question.
Mr. McDaniel, as a professional football player, were there times where you found it easy to get caught up in the spotlight and glamour of being a professional athlete? Or did you take the responsibility of being a role model seriously?
For myself, it was pretty easy not to get caught up in it. As you know, I was an offensive lineman, so we're a group of guys who no one really sees us that much, and so we go about our business. For me, I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted to go out and do my job and take care of business that way. If something came to me and put me in the spotlight, it was because of my teammates. Not something I did. I always considered it takes a team to get to where you're at today. And so I always deferred back to my teammates. It's mostly my teammates that did all that for me. But only time I would use that celebrity or that spotlight, it was to bring awareness to certain things that I thought was wrong on the team or something that needed to be addressed. And that way, it worked for me that way.
And I think one of the things you'll hear about Randall is the word humility. Comes up often with folks that speak with Randall from his career and in other areas. Humility is definitely a word I think that personifies Randall. It's kind of the offensive lineman mentality, right?
It is. Yes, it is.
Well, let's go to the next question. Pocono.
Mr. McDaniel, do you believe that the NFL is always fair with their choices on who takes the starting position based on skill and talent? Or do they base it on media and what the local fans want? Like, for example, the Mike Vick and Kevin Cobb saga?
I got to think about that. Do you think it?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, does the NFL fair about who starts, you mean? Who earns their position?
Like, does media go into the thought process in a coach's head, like Andy Reid this season? Like, do you think the media got to him and forced his decision to go to Michael Vick?
Okay. Does the media have any influence in that thought when coaches are deciding on who starts or not? In my opinion, I don't think it really does sometimes. After the fact, it may, but I think most of the time when the coaches make a decision or the NFL makes a decision, as we're talking about team standpoint, let's go team. Let's say when the coach makes a decision, he's not worried about what the media or other people are thinking at that time. Like you said, since we're talking about character, if something happens, though, with a certain player that starts and he happens to do something out there in the public, then I think the NFL is now starting to address that thing, the character of that person, saying you're representing your team, you're representing your fellow teammates. and we're not going to stand for that. I do like the fact that the commissioner is starting to do that now, address those situations, and like I say, it's about the team. And a lot of these guys, after they get out there, and some of them think they're bigger than the team, and I think he's putting the emphasis back on, you got to think of your team first before you think of yourself. And so in that aspect, I think the commissioner is listening to the fans or the people out there watching, saying, if you're going to put the product out there on the field, then they should be accountable to what their actions and the things that they're doing out there in the public.
Okay, thank you, Pocono. And I think they must be on the eastern side of the state, because if it was the western part, it would have been a James Harrison question about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think. So let's go ahead. Let's head over to Arizona. Salt River. Did you get in yet? Salt River High School.
Yes.
Okay. You guys have your questions? Go ahead.
No. Hello, người may nói nói rồi.
Salt River? You're a little intimidated.
I don't really have a question. I'm just letting you know this is your brother. I'm just here to watch it. What's going on?
You can't just hide in the background. Are you guys celebrating the win over U of A last night?
Of course. That's why I'm tired. I'm cheering for that game.
Hey, everybody, this is my younger brother that we're talking to right now. So I should call him my big brother, but no, he's my younger brother, and he's hey, this is good. I didn't think I'd get to see you. So do you have a question for me out there now?
What team is he?
He plays for
You ask him.
You go ahead and ask.
Ask him.
They're a little shy here, so.
A little shy. Go ahead.
Anybody have any questions?
Like playing football?
Do I like playing football? I love playing football. When I got to play, it was an opportunity for me. Like I said, I came from the little town of Avondale. Not a lot of guys got the opportunities. A lot of things went on out there. And then, like I said, my brother, I don't know if you call my brother Mr. McDaniel or I call him Kerry. There are situations that, as we talk about, make good choices. And we made some good choices along the way, and we got the opportunity to play in college level, and I was fortunate enough to move on to the pros. But no, I loved it. It was every day was just, like I said, you get to do what you love, and how can you not like it? I didn't have to start working until after football. So how's that? So I'm in my second job working in the schools now, but every day out there in the field was great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Salt River was stuck for questions. Maybe we'll come back to you guys here in just a moment. I thank Randall's brother for tuning in, and maybe we should be asking questions of him about your character.
You can go, yeah, go ahead. And that's what helps build character right there, your family member and your friends. So that would be great.
Mountain Gap, do you have a question for Mr. McDaniel? Randall, I should say, since we have two of them here.
What impact do you think religion should have on character?
Well, that's a very good question. Personally, it's your foundation. It's what you grow up with at home. It's how your family raised you and what they teach you along the way. My mom and dad, they set the foundation. And it helps you along the way. Making the right choices when you do get into the NFL or college or high school, for making good choices. You can fall back on your religion and what your family has done as you were growing up. And hopefully you make the right choices, or you can make choices where you don't get put into situations where you don't want to be in. But it does play that part. It's always in your background. It's there, and that helps you along the way as you're growing and you're maturing and you're moving along in life.
Great question,
Okay,
Nellie. You got another one?
The next question, who was your role model growing up, and if you had one, and why?
Well, I always say this, I start with my family. My mom and dad were my biggest role models. They instilled the values in us, the hard work, doing the things right, making the good choices, being accountable for your choices. So that was the foundation for me. If you talk school, my presenter when I went into the Hall of Fame, O.K. Fulton, was my first, he was an athletic director, and he was the first person to come up to me and say he wanted to get to know the young man, not the athlete. So for school, I will always fall back to Mr. Fulton. In football, I had some great coaches along the way. My line coach in college, Tom Freeman, to Jim Coletto. In the pros, I had like my second father, Johnny Michaels. I got to play for Tony Dungy down in Tampa. So those are my role models. And my wife is sitting off to the side. When we met in college, there's another role model right there for me. Just, they're everywhere. But those are some of my biggest role models, the people I look up to now and still do.
Okay, let's go from Huntsville, Alabama. Let's go to Dalhart, Texas. Do you guys have a couple questions?
We're in between some classes, and they're on their way.
Okay, do you have a question?
Well, we've had, I'm the only one in here right now. Our lunch is right now, and we can't get around it, so we're having some come back in just a few minutes.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to you. We'll come second round. So, Lake Arthur, Louisiana, go ahead.
When seeing a teammate exhibit poor character behavior, how would you address him?
If I had a teammate exhibiting poor character behavior, how would I address him? A lot of times, I mean, I was a guy who, I led by example. I let my actions speak before talking, but I had a couple of young receivers that came in late in my career that had all the talent in the world, and they had the poor character, the bad attitude, and they were not thinking about the team. And so for myself, I pulled them aside and talked to them. I didn't make it a big deal and do it in front of everybody at first. I would always pull them off to the side, talk to them about what they were doing and how it's affecting the rest of the team, and tell them they need a couple of new ways to address it themselves and fix it. If it continued, then we would sit down with the team, a group of the leaders and the captains on the team, and address it that way. Usually got taken care of. Like I said, being a lineman, as I always joke with everybody, but I think it's my own opinion. The linemen control a lot of that. The offensive linemen did. So it was always the group of 10 or 12 of us that would make sure everybody was doing the right thing. And with the big guys doing that, everybody kind of listened because, as I said, it always starts up front with the big guys. And you got to play together. You got to have a team, and you can't let one person ruin it because that one person represents your team, and it's a reflection on all of you.
And the one thing to realize about that is Randall shared, I mean, that philosophy, the team philosophy, that pertains to any organization, any endeavor that you go into. I mean, here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, if we don't function as a cohesive unit here, from our educational department to our marketing department to our exhibit staff, whoever it might be, we're not going to be the world-class organization that we are. So, a lot of these things he's talking about on the field, these are direct reflections on any endeavor that you choose in life. Okay, is there another one, Lake Arthur? Did you guys? Was that your first or
Yes,
second?
sir. This is the second. Coach always says that character is what you do when no one's looking. What would be a positive and negative example of that?
Can you say the second half of that question again? You kind of tailed off on me a little bit.
What would be a positive and negative example of it?
Of good character? Character
Yes,
trait?
sir.
I would say this, what athletes do a lot, I say this, when the cameras are on, you see these athletes, they say they talk about doing the right thing, and they're doing the right thing when the cameras are on. They're giving it I say they give it lip service. I always say it's what they do when the cameras aren't there. Are they still that same person? Will they do what they said they have? And I've seen it go both ways. I've seen some guys who don't want the cameras, and they're the ones you see out in the community doing all the good things, and we don't hear about them all the time. Bad example would be that person that everybody does see, and the moment that the camera's off, if you walked up to that person, they wouldn't spend the time of day with you. They would just ignore you or tell you to get away. I mean, an example of that would be a lot of guys, they say they go out and they would just want to be left alone in the public. They just want to go out and do their own thing. Well, then don't show up in the big limo and the 9 bodyguards around you and say you want to be left alone. You wouldn't come out that way if you didn't want to be seen. So if you're going to come out that way, be willing to be man enough and greet the public and be nice. Treat people the way you would like to be treated, and go from there. That would be an example of, like I said, lip service. Guys who say they're going to do it, and then they don't when the cameras aren't around. We wish people wouldn't be that way. Like I said, my mom always said, treat people the way you would like to be treated, and that's the way I live my life all the time. And like I said, if you ever bump into me on the street, come up and say hello. I'd love to sit down and talk to you in person.
Okay, thank you, Lake Arthur. Let's go to Wisconsin, Osceola High School.
All right. What do you think your best character trait is, and how has it helped you?
Probably my best character trait, probably, oh God, you make me talk about myself a little bit. I'd say honesty, integrity. I mean, I have a lot of patience that helps me in that effect for my character. I put up with a lot. I like to listen and sit back and take things in before I react. I think that's good to have. And instead of just, you see some guys, you hear something, you react right away without thinking it through and thinking about what could happen if you don't think it through. So for myself, it's just honesty, hard work, and I mean, like I said, I have a lot of patience. I actually work in elementary school, so I figure you got to have a lot of patience. So I hope that answers what you.
Go ahead with the second, Osceola.
What made you want to be a special ed teacher after being a football player?
What made me want to be a special ed teacher? Well, you know what? I will say this. When I was playing football, I've been doing it for 15 years. I started volunteering on my off days when I was playing, and then I would come during the off season. But it goes back even further than that. When I was at Arizona State getting my degree in phys ed, one of my friends who happened to be a teacher asked me to come out to her school and just read a book to the kids. A lot of young men didn't like to read because in their homes in that neighborhood, none of the dads read. It was that they thought it was just for women to do. And so she asked me to come out and read one day, and that's what I did. I came out and read a book to the kids, and then I ended up doing my student teaching at her school. And I was in her class almost every day doing language arts and stuff, just reading the books to these kids. And by the end of the year, I had more kids coming to me wanting to read their books or just hang out and talk about what they read. And so I knew from that early age that that's something I always wanted to do, and I've been doing that up until today. I mean, I'm taking a day off from school today, so some of my kids that I work with now are going, "You're leaving us today?" Which I go, "Yeah, but I'll be back for Monday, so make sure that homework gets done still."
I don't know if you guys could imagine having 200. I don't know how much you weigh now, Randall. I won't ask, but during his heyday, it was 275, 280. You look like you're staying pretty slim still. But I'd probably listen to anything and everything he said in that classroom, especially as a second grader. Let's go ahead and go back up to the top again. Swiftwater, Pennsylvania, Pocono. We'll go one question from you guys.
Was it hard to play in 202 straight games without getting injured?
Was it hard not to get injury? You know what? I always said this. I still work out every morning now to the day, and I've always believed in that hard work, determination would take you a long way. You got to knock on wood. I was very fortunate to not have injuries, but I was one of those guys, if I was able to practice, I was going to play. Like I said, I always talk about teamwork. I never wanted to let my fellow linemen down or that group of guys I played with all the time. So the 202 games was, for me, I never thought about it. You just go out and do it. I'll give you a little bit of background on me, though. When I went to school, and I don't tell people this a lot, but from kindergarten until I graduated from high school, I never missed a day. I was always at school. So perfect attendance all those years. So I hate missing anything. So when I came playing football, why would I start missing then, as I said? So I made sure I was always going to be ready to go. Now, if I was hurt, I came out of the game. But if I was injured, I was able to stay in. I would go out and do that.
Okay, thank you, Pocono. Did Salt River think of anything yet in Arizona?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. You like Wu-Tang?
Do you like Wu-Tang?
Wu-Tang. Would that be a group, a singing group?
Rap
or
group.
rapper? And you got to go back to the old Motown and R&B. And if you're listening to some, let's get them right. Four Tops, The Temptations, Smokey Robinson. You break up the old groups, and we can talk all day. No, Wu-Tang. You know, you still got to do your work in school, though, to be a producer. Who's going to look at that contract for you? Who's going to do the work when you have to fill out those paperwork for being a rapper out there. Who's going to be your manager? Are you going to know how to watch your manager? Are you going to be accountable? Or are you just going to let somebody else do everything for you and not know what's happening in your life? So take advantage of those opportunities while you're in school so you can have those, get the chance to do that and not have someone else run your life and take advantage of you.
You know, and Randall brings up a great point because a lot of times you see the glamour life of some of these, whether it's whatever these artists, whoever the artists, movie stars, whatever they might be. But what you don't see is how much time they put in to get that. I mean, it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes determination, it takes all those things to achieve. Whether it's a record producer or whether it's a music artist or whether it's an actor. Broadcasters, another great example. You folks see, one of our Hall of Famers on TV all the time, Howie Long, and you see John Madden. You see the glamour part of it being on TV, but what you don't see are the hours, probably 40, 50 hours they spend that week preparing for that broadcast, reading up on the teams, researching, studying their media guides, all the things that have to take place to do that. So great point, Randall. Let's go to Alabama, Mountain Gap.
To this point, what do you think your greatest achievement is?
It's my greatest achievement? Probably graduating from college. Everybody always assumes it's playing professional football and the Hall of Fame and all the things that have been happening lately. But, being the first to go to college and get that degree. And so that would be one of my greatest achievements right there, is being able to do that. And like I said, a lot of people never thought it was going to happen for me. Everybody assumed that I was just going to play sports, and then when sports ended, what were you going to do? Like I said, sports allowed me to go to college and get my education, so that would have to be one of my greatest achievements for right now.
Okay, thank you, Mountain Gap. Dalhart, did your students get back in there?
Yes, they did.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
What lessons learned in football have strengthened your character qualities?
Can you repeat that? A bell just rang in the classroom here. Can you say that one more time, please?
What lessons learned in football have strengthened your character qualities?
Say the last part again. You put the paper up right when you said your last part. What lessons did you learn? And
What lessons learned in football have strengthened your character qualities?
What lessons in football have strengthened my character qualities? I would say teamwork, learning to listen to others and to others' opinions and not be too judgmental right away. Like I said, a lot of patience, and from football has taught me that too, because you got to be patient when things aren't working. But mainly to just hard work, the hard work ethic. I mean, pushing through things when you think you can't, when it can't be done. Where if you just went a little longer or tried a little harder, that you actually can still achieve it. So through sports, through football, that has stayed with me now and to this day. That, I mean, when you think you can't do something, you just go a little harder, you find another way, you look for that help. You may not know all the answers, but you can find someone that can help you do that. So football has taught me to do that in my normal life to this day. So without football, I mean, like I said, before football, I wouldn't have asked those questions. I would have given up. But sports has taught me that you always got to ask questions. You always got to try to work a little harder and find other ways to get the job done.
And Randall brought up something there too. He said seeking help, and I think that's important. One of the things about being honesty is not only being honest with other people, but being honest with yourself and knowing when you need help. And Randall, have you ever encountered in life where you've had to lean on a shoulder or lean on someone or whatever in your football career or life?
I do it all the time right now. I work in the classrooms with kids. I'm around teachers all the time. And I tell the kids, if I don't know, I'm willing to ask. I mean, my wife, who is the engineer by trade, when I used to sub and I come across a math question, I couldn't get the right answer, or I was stuck on how to explain it to someone. I didn't hesitate to call on the phone and say, hey, we're stuck on this problem. Can you walk us through it? And I tell the kids that I don't know everything. A lot of teachers don't know everything, but so you're always constantly learning. So you always got to look for help. You're never too old to learn, and so you can always ask for advice. And I tell the kids that at school every day, that you're not going to know everything, but don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, that was me when I went to school. I sit back there because I was the athlete, jock, and the big kid in class, and I wouldn't ask the question because I'm supposed to know all these things. I tell kids, you don't. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ever ask for help. And if you don't ask the question, someone else in that classroom has that same exact question. And so it's not like you're asking a dumb question or not. It's someone else wants to know the same thing. So to never be afraid to ask for help out there.
Okay, I think Lake Arthur's next, correct? I think that was Dalhart.
How important is it to develop good character at an early age?
Well, I think it's very important. That's going to set you for the rest of your life. If you're able to have good character, like I said, the hard work, the integrity, the caring, the honesty when you're young, and learn to be responsible for your actions at a young age and be accountable for the things you do. As you grow up, from those life lessons when you're young, it'll carry on as you become an adult, that you remember that, okay, when I was young, I would do this the right way. You didn't just brush it off, but you learn from your mistakes and you take advantage of these opportunities that are given to you when you're young. Like I said, when you're young, if you take advantage of it, the opportunity can open a lot of doors for you, or it can close a lot of doors for you if you don't learn from those lessons. But at a young age, if you learn the hard work and learn to be truthful and honest and just stick with your be accountable and responsible, it'll carry you a long way through your adult life.
Okay, thank you, Lake Arthur, and let's head to Wisconsin again. How's the weather in Wisconsin?
It's cold. All right. What dreams and aspirations do you have for your own future?
Dreams and aspirations for my own future as of after football?
As of now, and days
going forward.
Yeah.
Well, right now, like I said, I'm working in the schools right now, and that's I love working with the young kids. I love helping them figure problems. I love helping them get that base that they're going to need for the further years in their career. And I think I'll keep doing that. I'm also working with middle schoolers in our volunteer program, where we go out and get in the community and volunteer and give back. So my wife and I will always keep doing that to get young kids to think about others other than themselves. So we'll keep doing that. Like I said, I love working with the young people, and so that's something I will always do. I'll do it as long as I can. As long as they keep having me around, I will continue to do that. But as far as my goals, it's just to keep doing what I'm doing, working with the young people out there, and hopefully if one of them can pick up a little bit of knowledge from me, that'll make it all worth it.
Okay, thank you, Osceola. Let's go back up to the top again. Pocono.
How's the relationship between you and the quarterbacks and running backs you blocked for?
How's my relationship with the quarterbacks that I played with and running backs?
That you blocked for.
That I blocked for? Which ones do you want to know about? I had a lot of them.
Whatever ones you want to tell me.
No, they all were great. The quarterbacks that I played for, and some of the names that I played for, I had Warren Moon behind me, Brad Johnson too, McMahon and all these guys, and then Herschel Walker's a running back, Roger Craig, Terry Allen. Robert Smith and all those guys, they're all great. I love playing for those guys. The relationship was great. Like I said, we went out and did our job for those guys. What made us look good is if those guys were getting 100 yards rushing, or they were throwing for over 3,000 yards passing, just by having them say, hey, you guys did a great job for us up front. But the relationship is great. I see Robert on ESPN a lot, talking and going on about his business, and that's great to see. But the relationship was great with those guys. Everyone I ever played with or played for or blocked for, always had a good relationship where we always sat down and talked about what they would want to see and what we could do better with each other. So I loved every moment with all those guys, and we still get along now today.
And that's a great point. You look at the team atmosphere, and even here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, my employees that I work with, many of these folks I've worked with now for 10, 11 years. They've become more than just a team here at the Hall of Fame. They've become family to me. And we trust each other, we respect each other, we care for each other. So again, going back to all those core character qualities. Let's go Salt River. Anything else besides for Wu-Tang?
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, that's it.
How long have you been playing? And what made you what made you get up every day to play? Like your model.
I'll say this. I played for 14 years in the NFL. Like I said, I loved every minute. I mean, where else in the world are they going to let an adult play a kid's game for that long and just have fun doing it? Like I said, it'd be kind of hard to get up in the morning if you didn't love doing what you were doing. I mean, I always told myself, if I'm getting up in the morning and dragging myself there going, why am I doing this? And do I really want to go in? I go, then it's time to quit. But no. Getting up and playing football was the easiest thing for me to do. It was kind of like I said, Kerry, he was the same way at school. In the morning when you get up to go to school, there was no, I'm going to lay in bed and be sick. It was, I'm getting up and going to school. Better to be in school than not in school. But as far as getting up and playing and having fun and not missing, that's where you got to hang out with your friends in the locker room and catch up on everything they were doing. That's where you found out what's happening in everybody's lives, what their kids and what their family was doing. And then you found out that you had a lot of things in common with all these other guys that you played with that came from different parts of the United States. That mean, just because you came from Arizona didn't mean you didn't have anything in common with the guy that came from Philly or wherever they were from. You had a lot in common, and that was the fun part about coming in and playing football all the time, that you got to know these guys, their families, and found out you had a lot of common interests. And like I said, a lot of those guys are still my friends today.
Okay, again. Well, thank you, Salt River. Let's go to Alabama, Mountain Gap.
We have 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
How do you recover from a tough loss?
How did I recover from a tough loss? For me, it was pretty easy. I mean, if I went out and I did my best and gave 100%, and my best wasn't good enough, I would go back and watch film and go, okay, what can I do better for next time? And deal with it that way. But for myself, I mean, when I stepped on the football field, it was all business. When I was in the classroom studying for the game, it was all business. But the moment I walked out of that room and went home with my family and friends, I left the football part behind, and I think that helped me adjust to dealing with tough losses. I would say this, when we lost the 1998 championship game to Atlanta, I think that one stuck with me for about a week before I finally kicked myself and said, what are you being upset about? Not too many people get that opportunity to even play in that game, so why am I upset and letting that ruin my life? I say it's part of life. You deal with it, and you move on and learn from it, but don't let it control your life and how you're going to do things for the rest of your life.
And there's definitely a lesson to be learned in that. No matter how much we prepare or whatever, there's going to be many times uncontrollable factors, or maybe we weren't quite good enough. Maybe there's some areas we need to improve upon. But there's always going to be something. You might not always. There's a lot of great players that have played the National Football League. Many that played to their fullest ability, but maybe necessarily didn't go on to a Hall of Fame career. Maybe didn't go on to win a Super Bowl, or maybe here at the Hall of Fame and relating to business. Let's say this connection, for example, today. We've been planning this with Randall's wife back in May. We've been planning this event for December. And we could have done everything right, given 100%. And what if knock on the here? What if the internet disconnects right now on Randall and everything goes? There's nothing we can do about it, but we gave it our best effort. So, go ahead, Mountain Gap, with the next one.
Have you ever doubted yourself?
Have I ever doubted myself? I will say this. As far as playing sports, I never had any doubts about what I could do playing sports. And that would be baseball, football, basketball, track, whatever. Never had a doubt. My doubts came in the classroom. I always struggled in the classroom, which is probably why I now love working in the classroom. I was not the best student. It always took me a little longer to figure things out. I always had to give a little more effort into it. And so that's probably where I doubted myself. I would sit in those classrooms going, God, everybody else is getting it, why can't I? Or is it me, or what's wrong with me sometimes? And so that self-doubt and saying I couldn't do it crept in there. And I think playing sports helped me get past that because it allowed me to meet some people that also helped me work my way through that, where I talked about asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, if I was on the football field and I had a problem, I had no problem running to a coach going, I need a little help. And they just said, you need to do the same thing in the classroom. And so I started doing that. So, yeah, the doubt was there. I mean, every now and then it's still there. When I'm working in classrooms at schools about, am I doing a good enough job? But like I said, I'm not afraid to go back and ask someone for help, or I'm not afraid to look the answer up and find my way through it. So, but no, there was doubt only in the classroom for me. But like I said, I always worked hard and tried to work my way through it and ask for help from people who knew a little more.
Okay. Thank you, Mountain Gap. Let's go back to Dalhart.
How has your character qualities helped you succeed in your career or life goals after football?
My character qualities for football, like I said, the character qualities, I mean, the hard work and the never giving up, the integrity, being honest, that helped me in football. And those same things help me now in my life after football. I still, get up and work just as hard. I think you gotta outwork the person. That old saying, while you were sleeping, someone was doing the work while you were still in bed, and they're out working you, so they're 2 hours, 3 hours ahead of you. I still do that now when I'm doing my normal thing in the classroom. I'm always thinking about how can I get up and get better? How can I improve on what I did? How can I reach every kid in that classroom that I'm working with that I didn't? And I'm always looking for ways to get better that way. So the hard work side, the integrity, being honest, being truthful, the patience, being loyal to the students and wanting to make sure and caring about those students have carried over into what I do now today outside of football.
Okay. Thank you, Dalhart. Let's go back to Louisiana. Lake Arthur.
Out of the 6 pillars of character, which one do you believe you're strongest and why?
Out of the 6 pillars, which one I believe is the strongest?
Yes, sir.
Probably caring and compassion. I mean, caring for other people. I mean, willing to, look out and do the right thing for others. And everybody would say hard work, honesty, but I think you gotta think about other people before you can think of yourself sometimes. So, being able to put yourself in other people's shoes so you can, better understand what they're going through and try to help them out along the way. So the caring aspect would be what I put at the top of my list for right now.
And I think it's reflected in his his bio that I have here in front of me. That just 2 pages of information of accolades and organizations that he's involved with. Most of all, like I said, youth-oriented initiatives. So I'd say caring is definitely at the top of his list. Just if you're just to look at his bio here. So let's go to Osceola, Wisconsin.
All right. In your life, what has been your biggest obstacle, and how did you overcome the adversity?
My biggest obstacle in my life. Wow. You're trying to stomp me this morning, aren't you?
Trying to.
You're getting close. Biggest obstacle was school. Getting through that first year of school. Away from home and going to college for that first year. Struggling with learning how to do things on your own. You didn't have parents, mom or dad, that security blanket of waking up in the morning and getting started. You had to actually get up and do it. I would say that, so my biggest obstacle was school, because my first semester, and I'll be honest, I tell kids this, I didn't do very well. I didn't show up for classes sometimes. I figured out I'm here to play football and enjoy college life. And then I had my coach, and the grades came out, chewed me out a little bit, and then I didn't realize they sent the grades home at that time. So when I drove home for the first time for that break, my dad met me in the middle of the street, and that wasn't a good picture to see. So, and I will say this, I'm 6'4", my dad's 5'10". But I was scared to death, and I was a little nervous about, okay, I'm going to disappoint my dad right here, and he told me no son of mine is going to go to school and not get his education. And so That's probably my biggest obstacle, but I think right after that little lecture out in the middle of the street, I went back and made the dean's list the next few years right after that. But school and doing the work was my biggest obstacle.
And Randall, talking about school, what kind of external pressures did you face in school? Obviously, you had the grades you had to do, you had the schoolwork, but think about you've got 9th, 10th, 11th grade students here. They're facing pressures on a daily basis outside of the classrooms. Is there any pressures that you faced your time, and what advice would you give these young people of how to avoid some of the pitfalls that maybe you or some of your peers maybe fell into?
Okay. I mean, like I said, I had a lot of, I would go by this. I had friends who were better athletes than me that I grew up with. I had friends who I thought were better baseball players, but they fell into that peer pressure of making the wrong choices at the wrong time. When they decided to go one way, I went the other, and I understand that. And they're not here. Some of them aren't here today. Some of them they're in prison. Some are today because of those choices. But I understand the young kids today. You have your friends wanting you to do things. You have all the, like I said, when we made a mistake back when I was going to school, there was no internet and all the social media is out there. If something happened, it only stayed in your community and at your school, and you dealt with it by that way with the peer pressure. Now it's out there everywhere, and it's out there forever. Once it's out there, you can't take it back. And so dealing with that, so I would say trying to, just make those good choices. I mean, your true friends are people who won't put you in that situation. You got the character. As I say, we talk about character. Honesty, integrity, friends, compassion, people who care about you. With those pressures, your real friends won't put that pressure on you. They're going to be the ones that you can always fall back and go to that help you with those things, and not be the ones that are trying to make you do the thing that you shouldn't do. And the ones who are trying to get you to turn that corner aren't really your true friends. But I don't know if I can help. I'm helping or not, but I know it's tough out there. It's a little tougher than what it was when we were going to school, but there's still similar problems. So, like I said, you just got to have that good group of people around you that you can always go to, that you know really have your best interests at heart, and then really trusting yourself, believing yourself. We all have that little voice inside that tells you, okay, you really shouldn't be doing this, or we should walk away. Listen to it sometimes. So, and like I said, I still have my closest 3 friends now from high school that we still talk, and we were the 3 that hung out together and said, we really don't need to be doing that, and let's stick together, and if the 3 of us stuck together, then everything was going to be fine.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Let's go to Pocono, Mountain East. Possibly the last question of the program. Make it. Pressure's on.
Did being picked in the first round of the NFL draft have anything to do with the way you played, and did you feel like you needed to show everyone why you were a first round pick?
They picked in the first round. It was different when I come out in the first round. You had to actually prove yourself when you were drafted in the first round. I think today when you come out in the first round, everybody knows you're going to start with the money and everything now, and you're only with that team for 4 years before you can be a free agent. You're given that job, in my opinion. When I came out being the first round, it wasn't that I had to prove something. You had to actually earn that job. You had to prove that you belonged in there. I had linemen that when I finally got to start, I was told no rookie's ever going to play on this offensive line when I came out the first rounder. And even when the lineman got hurt in the game, the first game of the season, he hurt his back, he still wouldn't put me in, and that's what I remember. I had to earn that spot, and the whole time I was trying to earn that spot, I was being chewed out every day, being told, I got a bus ticket, a road map, and an apple for you if you can't make this team. And if you don't get that part, the bus ticket was, I could be gone. The apple was my lunch, and as I was riding home on that bus, as he used to say. But no, I just wanted to prove myself when I first started playing, and I busted my butt to make sure when I got that opportunity, I wasn't gonna waste it. And so, and I like it that way. It wasn't like I deserved that spot. I had to earn that spot. And when you earn a spot on a team, you appreciate it a little more.
Okay, and I think that takes us to about the end. I get a couple minutes left. Randall, do you have any closing thoughts that maybe something we didn't touch on, or anything you'd like to share with the students in closing?
Like I said, I mean, it's tough out there, and I know that. But we're talking about character, honesty, caring, compassion, hard work. Like I said, I would leave you this: just make good choices. Surround yourself with people who have similar interests and or have your best interests at heart. Like I said, the choices you make today can affect you tomorrow. So make the good choices so you have those opportunities for down the road. And other than that, I appreciate you guys letting me come out and talk to you guys for a little while today, and have a nice rest of the afternoon.
If you guys can all unmute your mics for the time being and join me and give a round of applause for Hall of Famer Randall McDaniel.
Thank you very much.
And Randall, if I could say on behalf of the Hall of Fame and behalf of personally, and this is why I love doing this series, because I take notes. I take notes as we go along, whether it's been Alan Page a couple weeks ago and Mel Blunt not too long ago and Joe DeLamiere we did this with. I just want to say thank you for doing this program. Thank you for what you do in your communities, and thanks for being such a wonderful Hall of Famer. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Thank you very much for having me on.
And thanks to your wife too, Marion. I know she's in the background. She's
hiding over here.
He said that she's the engineer. She's the engineer of his schedule too. So she's the glue there. So Marion, thank you as well.
Thank you.